Gather around the table once again for another session of Dungeons and Drakfus. I know that we said that we were retired, but I have a little bit of unfinished business, as you guys have let me know. Yes, I forgot this instance in the Cataclysm raid part, and now we're just going to go ahead and tackle it. I believe we kind of did this anyway for Wrath of the Lich King as well, but I forgot about one specific raid instance for those who are just barely joining us. Kind of like Wrath of the Lich King, Cataclysm also tried to have another Winter Grasp area that housed a raid that people could be able to do for not only PvP gear, but also some of the tier gear as they went along in their raiding. And that was where they came up with the Isle of Tol'Barad. Basically a isolated island that was basically that was maintained by the nation of Kultiris. It seems a little abandoned as of the Cataclysm, but they were actually housing a prison here called Baradin Hold, which held the nastiest customers that could possibly be held here by mages of the Kirin working with Kultiris. So let's go ahead and do this because, like Wintergrasp, this one is a controlled environment. We have to do it while it's horde controlled. But first, let's go ahead and go into the overview of Baradin Hold. Following the Second War, the ruined fortress of Baradin Hold on the remote island of Tol'Barad was converted into a prison for some of the most dangerous forces on Azeroth. Yet, with the devastation wrought by the Cataclysm, the prison's integrity has been compromised. Now, as the Horde and the Alliance vie for supremacy on the island, the liberation of its forgotten horrors may be at hand. And basically what happened was, like with Wintergrasp, they would add bosses as raid content came out. Now remember, Cataclysm, unlike Wrath of the Lich King, which lent to, they started with Archivon, then they added Emelon, and then Toravon, or no, actually, Emelon, and then Coralon, and then Toravon, 4 bosses. This one only got 3. One was added for the 4.2 content, since 4.1 was basically considered to be, it was Rise of the Zandalari, so it wasn't necessarily raid content. They didn't see a reason to put in any troll content to this. So our first boss for it wasn't even added until 4.2, Rage of the Firelands. So then we got an actual boss that was kind of based around fire, but not really. And then obviously the Dragon Soul raid added a new boss to Baradin Hold as well. So right now we are in Tol'Barad. This is kind of an active world PvP battleground area, so you can still come here and be able to do Baradin Hold if you want to. There's not really a whole lot of incentive to do it now, aside from, extra chances at tiers. But here is the entrance to Baradin Hold. We're going to literally enter through the basement. Ah, crap. And I got lost a little bit. Here we go. So here is the entrance. Really quick, I just want to make sure raid difficulty. Yep, it's set up the way that it needs to be. And the cool part is that if you come in here with your guild and do it really quick, you can just bounce straight out to Orgrimmar and get back to whatever raid you were in. This was something that was not done, well, it got implemented later in Wintergrasp, where they actually did offer a portal to Dalaran. So you guys could be able to get back there quickly. But here is Baradin Hold. As you can see, it's already got containment units that are destroyed, and demons are wandering around. That's not good. Now, the cool part is that you see these dead eyes right here? Originally, there was these containment units that you actually had to fight in 4.0 up until 4.1. When they added 4.2, they added these Eyes of Okuthar that would patrol this area, and then in 4.3, they added these Disciples of Hate. So it was cool because your trash would change, but obviously you were kind of picking individual bosses. And we're gonna go in order. So the first one that actually got released at 4.0 was the Pit Lord Argaloth, and I believe he does show up later in Legion, but I can't remember where, which is kind of sucky for me because I loved a lot of the emergences of certain demons there. But let's go ahead and go into the lore of Argaloth. Unable to contain the massive Pit Lord Argaloth in the cells of Dalaran's mighty Violet Hold, the Magi of the Kirin were left with no choice but to confine the powerful demon beneath Tol'Barad. And that's going to be kind of an ongoing theme here. The bosses here are a little big for the Violet Hold, And our buddy Argoloth is no exception to this. So let's go ahead and take him out. Boom. Not really any additional lore that's being tossed out here, but there you go.
I can't carry anymore.
Oh, and I ran out of inventory because I've been very, very busy. Okay, so we're not going to worry about that too much, but if I find something that I want, which I probably won't because I'm a monk and gear for me didn't come out until Mists of Pandaria. But that is the 4.0, 4.1 Tol'Barad boss that we got for the longest time. It was kind of like the introductory, let's get some raid gear for people boss. Now for the next one, we actually have to go all the way over here where you can actually see a few Eyes of Akithar that are still around. But the next one was added in patch 4.2, Rage of the Firelands, and it was the Demon Akithar. So let's go ahead and head on in here. Obviously, he's a big old doggy. He's a big old demon doggy. And let's go ahead and go into his lore. This ravenous demon broke free of its cage and gained access to the western wing of the prison, devouring all of the inmates held there. Akuthar's gluttony resulted in a body too bloated to escape its environs, effectively turning the prison wing into its new holding cell. Alright, so this was the boss that you had to take on during Rage of the Firelands. So let's go ahead and take on Akithar. Boom! Come on, Akithar. There we go. No, not really. Not really anything that I want to get, so too bad. So that's 2 of the 3 bosses, and now let's make our way to the final one, which was added in patch 4.3, Hour of Twilight, and that would be the Hate Mistress Hazabel. So let's go ahead and make our way here. So again, more corpses of Eyes of Akithar, and then we have this Disciple of Hatred. And here is her mistress, Elizabeth. That's actually how you say it. So here is Elizabeth. Let's go ahead and go into her lore.
How I hate this place. My captors may be long dead, but don't think I won't take it all out on you, miserable treasure hunters.
I'm sure you will. And here is the lore for Elizabeth, Mistress of Hate. The Kirin Tor imprisoned Elizabeth in their formidable violet hold not long after corrupt magi summoned the Shivara into Azeroth. Despite arcane wards restricting her powers, the demon's malicious influence alone caused her guards to murder one another in sudden fits of rage. Her transfer to the Baradin Hold prior to the Cataclysm has only aggravated the ruined prison's increasingly dire conditions. And so let's go ahead and take on Elizabeth, which is a more updated Shivara model. Boom! There we go. So there's Elizabeth.
One of you.
Spirit Walker. Oh, man. That would have been really awesome. And that's, I hate to say it, that's pretty much it for the Baradin Hold. So this was pretty much the Winter Grasp equivalent for Cataclysm. And sadly, like, where I like the idea of Baradin Hold and Vault of Archivon, it wasn't implemented ever again. I mean, we did eventually get Ashran in Warlords of Draenor, but we never got like a PvP-based raid to help with the gearing process, probably because it kind of got abused in Cataclysm. I don't think it did, but that's my opinion. So yeah, that actually did it. So Mists of Pandaria unfortunately doesn't have this, and that does it for this episode of Dungeons and Drakfus. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for your continued love and patience for the channel. I really do appreciate it. And stay tuned as we, actually, we're going to be taking a podcast week next week, and unfortunately Dungeons and Drakfus is still on a hiatus, and that's just because we're going to actually sub in a lot of the pre-launch coverage for Battle for Azeroth. We'll see you then.